What is up, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Start, Build, Grow Show. Check it out, man. We have another amazing guest, and on today's show, we are talking about real estate, how to get into real estate, how to start investing in real estate. I know a lot of you are interested in that, a lot of roofing owners, a lot of entrepreneurs and contractors. We build businesses, and we need to make a little money, hopefully, and we got to start figuring out ways to diversify our investment. So we're going to dive into real estate today on today's show. So stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome in. Man, a good friend of mine, two-time best-selling author, owner of Pine Financial Group, and host of the Real Estate Educators podcast. My man, resident real estate guru himself, Kevin Amolsch. My dude, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, Randy, I'm just so happy to be here. I know we've been talking about this for a little while and matching up our schedules. We're both super busy, and I'm glad we made this work.
I'm looking forward to it, man. We get to have some fun talking about one of my favorite subjects, and I know it's your favorite subject.
Yeah, it is.
This is your life. And here's the thing. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I build businesses. I'm in the roofing space. I do coaching, all the things, multiple businesses. But one of my favorite businesses I don't talk a whole lot about is my real estate investment company, my real estate holding company. And like many of you, probably yourself as well, and we're going to dive into your story too. But I read a little book. I don't know if for the first time I read it was in high school or maybe right when I got to college, but a little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I was going to say, it's that purple one, isn't it?
The purple book. And that book changed my life. And it made me think of, okay, this is the way to prepare for my entire life. And ever since then, my business partner and I, we've always looked at, all right, anytime we are able to make a little income or take some disbursements, or the whole objective has always been to build that asset column. So we're going to dive into that, man. Kevin, in traditional fashion here on the show, we just want to kind of get to know, you and how you got to where you are. Like, how'd you get into real estate? I could probably premise it already with a little purple book, but how'd you get into real estate? What interests you, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'll take you back getting out of high school. I was so dang sick of school, Randy. I mean, I've talked about this many times, but it's just, school was tough for me. And so I decided I wanted to do something different besides college. And so I went into the Army. They sold me on laser tag. If you come into the Army, you could play laser tag. So there it was. I went into the Army, and it wasn't quite as they described it, but I was there. And the thing about the Army is you don't have a lot of expenses, right? So I wasn't spending a ton of money. And so I was able to save just a little bit. Each month I saw that bank account growing. So I started thinking about, where can I maximize this investment? Where can I grow this? And then it was that purple book. We're talking about stacking assets, cash flowing assets. And that's how you separate yourself from the middle class. So that's exactly what I did. I bought my first house. I was just turning 21, moved into it, lived there for 2 years, rented it out the room. So I paid my mortgage, moved out of it, kept it as a rental property. And there I was, 23 years old with my first rental property. And in that process, what that taught me was I can make money every month without working for it. I could have my tenant pay off my mortgage for me. It's going to appreciate in value over time. Now, there's some fluctuation here and some volatility, but over time, it will increase in value. And then there's some tax benefits. So it's like I can get paid 4 different ways by owning property. And so I just really honed in on that, and I turned it into a business.
That's awesome, man. Our stories are like almost identical.
I know.
I was in college, right? And I did go to college. So somehow somebody was like, hey, let me do this college thing. But one of the biggest takeaways I got is I worked full time. That's what got me into construction. So I'm grateful for my decision to do that. You can see this dusty degree I got back here that literally no one's ever looked at. It's just got dust all over it. But through that process, I kind of went to go work for a construction company, and I was lucky. I didn't have any money, man, but I was lucky enough to figure out how to make my first deal, where I bought one of the homes that I was building. I was working for a construction company, so I bought one of their houses, and they had 5 bedrooms, and I remodeled the basement and kind of added some more, and I rented out the rooms to my college buddies. Right. So I just,
yeah,
and then,
perfect.
And then, kept that for like 10 years or so. And I finally sold it a few years back. But yeah, same concept is like Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's like, how do I figure out a way to get an asset? And I think one of the takeaways there is it's not as hard as you think, right? So many people think like, oh, I need to have all this money or all this to get started. I don't think that's so true. Like, what's your thoughts?
No. And to clarify, I did go back and get a diploma. Just I wasn't ready right out of high school. I didn't want to waste my time, so I went to the Army. But to answer your question, no, you don't need cash or credit. It's credibility over cash. And what I mean by that is, can you negotiate with the owner of a house and create a solution for their problem and be profitable? So I was in college when I started buying a lot of properties. I was buying 1 or 2 a month.
Wow.
And my kitchen was like canned green beans and a keg of beer in the fridge. And I didn't, there was some top ramen too. I definitely had top ramen, but I didn't have money to even barely buy food. And I was still buying a house or 2 a month. And the interesting thing about that is I was getting questions constantly, like, how are you this punk kid and you're out there buying a house every single month and building this portfolio? And so that's when I decided to put it in a book. And you mentioned a 2-time bestseller, which I'm very proud of, by the way. But that first one, I was super young and I just wrote that one and I self-published it and it went to #1 on Amazon. But it's exactly that. How do you do this without cash or credit?
I love it. Well, you got me intrigued. So I'm just going to hang out here for a minute and ask, like, how the heck do I buy? Like, how did you buy multiple houses a year with no money? Like, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so it's all about owner financing or creative financing. It's typically going to be the owner. You could do it with partners and private money and that kind of thing also. But typically when you hear creative financing in real estate, it's negotiating directly with the owner of the home. So I had a whole campaign where I was sending out letters. I had signs up. I was doing cold calling just to uncover what we call a motivated seller. So a seller that has a property that's creating some kind of pain for them. So give you a perfect example. Maybe it's a job transfer and now they have to move and this property is going to create a double payment situation. Now they have a payment on a vacant house and their new house, right? So that you can only do that so long, right? Money is finite. So that creates pressure that we can relieve. And the way I do that, the best strategy, Randy, that I found to do this is a lease with an option. So I'll come in and I'll lease the property, make sure the payment's covered for you. I'll sublease it out to another tenant, manage it all, right? And then I just need to lock in a purchase price somewhere around today's value. But it's going to be a long-term solution, right? How long exactly, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, do you want to not have to worry about this payment? Well, I don't ever want to worry about the payment. Okay, so we should do like a 10 or 15-year term so you don't have to worry about it, right? So I lock in a price, today's value, for 10 or 15 years, and then I sublease it out. And as the property goes up in value, that option that I have on it to buy it at a lower price becomes extremely valuable. So I could either sell the paper or I could buy the property at my option price, resell it at the new current value. So it's kind of a long-term game here, but it's a great way to get into real estate without any cash.
Wow, that's kind of somewhat mind-blowing, my friend. What are some of the downsides of that? Like what happens if in this volatile market, the house goes crazy, rockets in value? Like, how do you keep that locked in and how do you protect yourself?
Yeah. So an option is just like a stock option, right? So if I pay in the traditional stock world, you pay a premium and now you have a right to buy a stock at a set price. Now, if that value goes up, then you benefit, right? So it's a way to leverage in, if you could think of it like that. But if that goes down in value, then your option becomes worthless, right? You're not going to exercise an option at $100 a share if it's only worth 90, right? Because I could just go buy it at 90, right? So your option would become worthless and you would lose your premium. In real estate, it's the same concept, except you don't need to put an option premium down because sellers don't necessarily need that. And if you're not offering it and they're not asking for it, you never have to pay it. But you do want to be very clear in your documentation. Hey, this is the price. This is an option, not an obligation. So if the value of the house goes down, I'm not required to buy it. And this is the term, right? So it's all in the documentation.
Nice. And when you were first getting into this, like, that's where my mind goes is, okay, I get it. We need to have this documentation. Like, where do I find those documents? I mean, back in my day, it was like, I didn't have Google. I mean, when I first started, I don't want you to date yourself either, but like, there wasn't Google. There wasn't like, these websites to do all this, but like,
so awesome.
where do you find that documentation?
So I'm thinking back to when I was doing this. So this is over 2 decades now. Right? I've been investing in real estate for over 2 decades. So back then, you're right. They didn't have Meetup, right? You had to like go out and find investment associations to try to find other investors. Now you have, I mean, they're everywhere, right? You have Meetup, you have Bigger Pockets, you have online forums, you have podcasts, you have all these other tools that we didn't have when you and I were getting started. But for me, I just read 2 books. And those 2 books, I was just like, well, I'm not going to really know something unless I do it. I really believe this. You could learn everything you want from books and reading and seminars. If you don't know it, right? You know it when you live it. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take this information out of the book, and I know I'm going to fall on my face, but I'm going to go out and try, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to limit my risk because I'm learning that piece. And then but they didn't have any documents. So I bought an online course for $150, found it on Google, and it's claimed to have the forms that I need. And so I bought that and I used those forms. Now those forms were terrible. I probably could have got myself into some trouble, but at least it gave me the form to get 1 or 2. In fact, it was 2 deals completed before I started spending a little bit of money on doing it correctly. So that's how I did it. Now, am I recommending that your listeners do that? I am not recommending that your listeners do that. I think you should maybe get a template and then have your attorney review it.
There it is. Yeah. Disclaimer. We are not lawyers, right?
Exactly. But if you have a document that you like and you feel comfortable with it, and just say, hey, just can you bless this? Can you give me your feedback instead of having them create a whole new one? Now they have templates too. When they said they created a new document, they didn't do that. All they did was go to the folder with the template, right? It's the same thing, but at least this is one you've already reviewed. So it should save you a little bit of money.
Gotcha. So with some legal forms and a smile and some tenacity, you can get this thing going.
Yeah, exactly. And the book, the 45-day investor, it's at the 45dayinvestor.com. And look, I don't make any money on this. It sells for $8. Okay. But if you go in there, though, I do have all the forms in there that I actually use. So you could use that as a template and have your attorney review it. Very
cool. So repeat that again. Is it the 45-day investor or
the 45dayinvestor.com? And all that does is direct you right to the Amazon page. So the 45dayinvestor.com.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very cool, man. Hey, you want to get started? There you go. All right, let's fast forward. So you just actually released another book. So bridge the gap for me. That's how you got started. You started building portfolio, and then what happened next? What happened next in your career?
I was buying property after property after property, and I made a lot of mistakes here. And we could talk about mistakes you make as an investor. I'd be happy to, because I can go on for days on that. But so what I learned was the financing side of real estate is everything. Like it's how you negotiate. It's how you speak to the seller. It's how you write your offer. Like where is the money coming from? That's how you structure your transaction. And I love structuring transactions. So I just kind of migrated to the financing side of real estate. And I started raising private capital to help other real estate investors with their projects. So this was back in 2006. I had a partner at the time. She wouldn't say that. I considered her a partner, but she considered me like an employee. And so that went until 2008 when everything was crashing, right? And she decided that she wanted to coach and teach and not actually do. So she went and started her own company, and I started Pine Financial. But it all started with her. I owe so much to her. Her name is Susan. She's fantastic. And she introduced me to the very first passive real estate investor. And that's what created where I'm at today.
That's super cool. So what does that like entail? I mean, well, actually, here before I go there, you teed this up, so I got to take the bait. Like, we all love mistakes. Okay. Entrepreneurship is literally about mistakes. Like, how do you learn and how do you manage your mistakes? I think that's the goal of being an entrepreneur in any space, no matter what you're doing, is to gain knowledge and wisdom as fast as you can, to then use that knowledge and wisdom to then build your empire or build whatever it is you're trying to build. And how do you gain knowledge and wisdom? Fast. You make mistakes and you learn from others, right? So let's talk about some of the mistakes. Give me a couple nuggets on some of the big mistakes you made, and maybe some stuff to avoid.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this will go good for your listeners, because look, we're all business owners, right? So if you're a roofing contractor and you're trying to create your own thing, your own clientele, this is going to be applicable for sure for that as well. So I think the words that you use to talk to your own self and the goals you set are vital to your success. So what happened to me was I was so worried about my appearance at the association clubs and all that. because people would come up to me a lot. They knew how successful I was being, and they were always asking me, and that fed an ego, which I shouldn't have had, frankly. And so I was trying to be bigger and better and more impressive. So my goals were all around, well, how many transactions can I do? Can I do 2 deals every single month? Can I do 24 houses in a year's time? Something like that. Well, the problem with a goal like that, Randy, is it's based on results instead of action. And when you're based on a goal on results like that, you might do something that is outside of your normal criteria just to hit a goal. High achievers like you, high achievers like your listeners, look, we set goals and we do whatever we can to hit those goals, right? So if your goal is to do a deal a month, let's say, you might do shitty deals just so you could hit that goal. And what ended up happening to me is I was doing marginal deals. I was going outside my criteria. And then 2008 hit. So I had 55, 56 doors, 50 single family homes in my portfolio when 2008 hit, and I got absolutely murdered. So the biggest lesson I've learned is I should be setting goals for maybe profitability of a deal, maybe a set a goal like how many offers am I going to make in a week or a month, something that I can actually control, and leave the results focused goals out of it, at least at the beginning.
Job Limits is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
Are you looking to stand out with your proposal? Sumo Quote is the contractor quote that crushes the competition. It is the fastest way to build custom quotes that impresses clients and wins more work. It's one of those must-have technologies for roofing contractors, allowing them to sell faster, sell more, and sell smarter. Be sure to check them out at try.sumoquote.com/start-build-grow.
That is excellent. I think there's a direct correlation and takeaway for the roofing world as well.
Totally.
You know, many of us, and mistake I made early on was same type of thing, it was just any deal is a good deal, right? In starting a roofing company. And I think a lot of people start roofing companies with the same mindset of like, anybody I can get to commit to me, I'm going to do it. I'll take whatever work I can get. And what I realized was a lot of the work that I was taking was outside of my expertise and my scope of what I wanted to do. So for instance, you take on a roof and a homeowner is like, well, I need a roof, but I also need some windows, some paint. I need a new bird house. I need my hedges trimmed, whatever it is. And roofers were like, oh, we'll be the GC. We'll do it all. We'll do it all. I did that for sure. And then I found myself in a place where so much of my bottlenecks, my headaches, and my cash flow was tied up in the birdhouse that I sold, right? Or the I'm going to paint your garage door, or whatever it is that you commit to doing that's totally outside of your expertise. It can completely derail you. And that's something a lot of us have to kind of learn the hard way. So if you're listening to this, like, focus, be really, really, really good at one thing, and then explore the idea of exploring or adding on other verticals in your business. If you're in roofing, just do roofing.
Exactly.
Just do roofing.
Such great advice, Randy. What do they say? The fox that chases 2 rabbits catches none.
Absolutely. I love that. All right. So the Pine, right? Walk me through like what you guys do there and kind of how that all came about.
Yeah, so the industry is changing a bit, but we still consider it a hard money lender. So there's this association that's trying to make it a real life industry, which they've done a good job of. It's called APL, AAPL, and it's the American Association of Private Lenders. And so they are wanting to change the term hard money to private lenders. So those can be used interchangeably, but just think of it as, individual cash going into real estate projects. So for us, we bring in private capital from investors that want to be more passive. Like maybe they're not out there wanting to knock on doors and call foreclosures. Maybe they just want to park some money and just get a return, and they know that something backed by real estate is safe. So we take that money in and then we just loan it out. We loan it out to real estate investors that are doing fix and flips, new construction projects, some commercial repositioning. So We did it like a good examples. We did a Safeway here in Colorado that they converted it into three separate bays. There's like a swim school and a gym and something else. So it's just repurposing. So anything that's real estate related that adds value, we're interested in taking a look at funding that. It's a fantastic business, man, because I get to see all sides of it and I get to help. It's like a win-win-win situation. I help my investors, I help my borrowers, and we make a profit doing it.
That's super cool. And it's super intriguing. I've always been very intrigued by the real estate side of things. And I try to, pay attention to what's going on in the market. And you're starting to see a lot of, you mentioned it, you're starting to see a lot of this, old grocery stores or old Kmart's or whatever starting to be repurposed. Is that like the thing now? Or like, what would you say is, kind of something to be paying attention to you're in the front lines.
Yeah.
I just see maybe the back, like, after the fact, oh, that would have been a good idea, but 3 years ago, I didn't have the idea. Like, if I'm thinking about trying to park some money and make some investments, and what's something that I could be maybe looking into that's up and coming that might be a good investment?
That's such a fantastic question. And I'm curious, like what your portfolio is looking like in your real estate holding company, because what we've seen since COVID is a skyrocketing values, right? Double-digit appreciation across the board. And then it came down. And I think from peak to trough, it's about 13, a little under 13% for the nation, but it's already recovered most of that. So now we're seeing it go back up again. So I think there's opportunities no matter what market you're in, but this specific one is very confusing. And the reason I say that is because you have a very, very strong housing market. There's record low inventory. There's like 1 million or so homes for sale across the nation, which it hasn't been that low since as far back as ever, basically. But we're still, our population is growing. So housing supply is going down while population is going up, which is creating a lot of pressure. That's why you're seeing home values appreciate when we have 7, 8, 9% interest rates, because that does confuse people. How can it cost this much money to borrow and the value is still going up on the house? You would think it would be the opposite, which would actually really help inflation if it was the opposite. But it's just supply and demand. That's economics. That's what we learned in college, right? And that's what we're seeing, where the opportunity could be, we mentioned the Safeway, is on the commercial side, because we're not seeing appreciation over there. In fact, it's the opposite. It's going down in value right now on the commercial side. And the reason for that is because when the cost of capital goes up, the return on the investment goes down. And someone buying a Safeway, for example, they're basing their decision to buy or not buy primarily on the return on their money, because it's an investment. Single family homes isn't like that. There's a lot more emotion to single family homes because someone's buying it potentially to live in it, not keep it as a rental. So they're not as worried about the interest rates, but commercial is highly sensitive to the cost of capital. So you're seeing that start to go down. Now, where the opportunity might be is, are you going to get in now while it's down? And then when interest rates start to come down, which we're expecting, then the values start going back up again. So I like commercial across the board, but there's different asset classes we can get into if you'd like. But I like that as an opportunity. And I really like the lease options and other owner carry financing strategies that we opened the show with.
Gotcha. Are you seeing that in the commercial space a lot too now, or is that still a residential strategy?
You see owner financing way more in commercial, because now you're dealing with sophisticated sellers, and the sophisticated seller knows I have to get creative to get my price, because they're not going to go out and borrow at 8 or 9% and be profitable. So if I want this price, I need to provide some financing for them to get them in so that they could be profitable also. So you're seeing that a lot more on the commercial side. But look, for your listener, if they're just trying to get into real estate, you're probably not going to go buy a Safeway. Right? Let's be honest. You're probably going to go buy a condo or a townhome or a single family home and just get your feet wet, get started. I still think the lease option is a fantastic way to do it. The reason I say that, Randy, is because there's a lot of 3% money out there. There's 3 and even sub 3% locked in 30-year fixed loans out there, but you can't go get that right now, right? You're going to borrow at 8. So, I mean, the 30-year fix is 7. Investors pay about a point higher. So you're looking at about an 8% rate. But there's locked in 3% money. So is there a way that I could take advantage of that? And if
you get the gap, right?
Yeah, then you could either pay more for the house, or you can create that spread. So let's say you, Randy, you have a 3% mortgage, but you have to move because you just got a job transfer. Well, let's keep that loan in place. Let's not pay off 3% money. But what if I just lease the property from you, make sure that that's covered? Maybe I'm even going a little higher than to cover it because the interest rate is so low. So you could profit every single month. And then we lock in a purchase price. See, that's why I think that that's such a great strategy right now.
I love it. So finding
them.
Like, let's talk about finding them. How do I find somebody,
Yeah, so I can go a little higher level here. So I'll try to go slow to make sure everyone grasps this. But the idea here is you're trying to find a problem that you could have a solution for. You're not looking for houses. So I think that's the distinction. I'm looking for a problem. So we gotta target our marketing towards that. Now, if you have time to go out and start knocking on doors, you could just knock on doors, right? And see, is anybody getting any job transfers, or anybody maybe wanting to rent their house or sell their house? And you could ask those types of questions. But for me, I really like to look at properties that have, not a lot of equity, but that are nice and ready to rent right now. And the reason I say that is because if it has a lot of equity, that creates options for the owner. And so they might just list it on the MLS with a realtor and just sell it normally. But if there's not enough equity for them to pay a realtor commission, then they don't have as many options. So you might be their best option. Good way to do this. Maybe the easiest way to do this is stale and expired listings in the MLS. You can get these lists absolutely free. You just talk to a real estate agent that has access to the MLS, let them know what you're looking for, and they should be able to provide that to you. A stale listing is maybe something that's been in the MLS for 4 months, 3 months, a little bit of time, but it's still active on the MLS. The reason I like those, Randy, is because if I was a licensed agent, I couldn't market to them. I would not be allowed to send them a letter. But if I'm not licensed, no one's stopping me from sending them a letter. So I'd send them a letter and say, hey, I don't want to list your house. I know it's already listed. I'm interested in buying it. If you'd like to talk to me about that, then give me a call. And then your phone starts ringing, and then you're talking directly with the owner. That's what you want.
Interesting. All right. So let's as we're, so much awesome stuff to keep diving in, man. We're going to keep the conversation going for sure. Offline as well. But, fast forward, you just released another book. Like, let's talk about that for a little bit.
So, and we didn't talk much about this as an opportunity because the way the market is presenting itself, so it makes it a little bit tougher, but there's still opportunity just to go out and find a house and just keep it and rent it. And this is really what Kiyosaki talks about in his book. This is how you gain wealth. This is how you become rich and free, financially free, right? You got to stack assets. So if you want to do a more traditional route and you're out there looking for houses, especially in your industry, you're looking at houses constantly, right? You're out in the field every single day and you're finding properties that maybe they have overgrown grass. Maybe you could tell that it's vacant. Well, if you could figure out how to buy that, maybe contact the owner, or if there's a realtor sign, call the realtor, and it needs construction, it needs work, it needs improvement. We can come in and finance that for you, the purchase and the construction. And then once you get it all cleaned up and ready to go, you rent it out to a tenant and then you refinance into your 30-year fixed. So we call that the BRRRR strategy. I'm sure many of your listeners have heard of this. BRRRR just is buy, rehab, refinance, rent, and then repeat the process. You just do it over. And that's how you really limit your out-of-pocket money. You could potentially be no money out of pocket if you find a good enough deal. So that's another opportunity. In the book, where you were alluding to, talks a lot about that. So it's all about private and hard money and how to utilize that tool to be successful as an investor.
I'm all about it. You got the book there so we can see it. And what's it called? How do I find it?
It's Fund Your Flip. And you could find this at fundyourflip.com. There'll be a link. You got to do a two-step process here. It'll go to fundyourflip.com, and then we set up a splash page, and then you can just click on buy, and then it'll take you to the Amazon. So that's all. Both of these aren't on Amazon. Neither one of them are, if you know anything about writing books, Randy, you know this. You don't make money doing it unless you're like New York Times bestseller, Amazon bestseller. Card. That's cool. It's a business card. Exactly. It's just a business card. But there's a ton of great information. But the reason I say it's just a business card is because it's not very much. It's less than $10, right? So I think it's extremely valuable if you are interested in getting into real estate as an investment.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then by all means, like the information in there is invaluable.
For sure.
I mean, what you learn, what you share, like you already paid all the dumb tax. You're the one made the mistakes. You're the one who'd been doing this for your entire career. And now you're able to, consolidate that into a book that provides incredible value to those, who are interested in getting into this. So, just to kind of, you mentioned a little bit. So to kind of share a little story, just from my perspective as well, getting into this early. And I'm still just kind of, working on the asset column as well. We're always trying to look, and I want to continue to grow that here. Yep. But one of the first things we did, and there's a good debate here, right? Is your own home, your investment? Like, there's an argument that like your own home, like go rent your own home. Like you do a better job if you can buy a house and rent it and create income off of that instead of your own home. However, we bought our own home. We rolled that up a couple different times and we were able to kind of build up to where we live in our home now. But my partner and I, with our roofing company, we started the company with the vision of when we get to a place that we can have a disbursement, we make a little bit of money. It's not about like, let's just level up our life. No, let's keep our life where it is. And let's take what we can as the dividend, or if we're going to make some money at the end of the year, and then let's pull that together and go buy a property. And the first thing we did was we bought our property. Then we created a company and leased it back to our company. So now we're kind of hedging both ways, where the mortgage is paid plus there's a gap to then use that gap to then fill up that holding company. To then ideally whenever the time is right, you have enough to go buy other companies. Yeah. So we've done that twice. So now we own about 6,000 square feet, 4 different units, flexible space, and 2 different times we've done that to where now we lease it back to ourselves as the company. So we own our own commercial space. So that's a very solid, very safe, with a lot of equity there. Like it's a really good investment that's been really good for us. And then it's crazy that I talked about this just yesterday. My business partner and I have been friends for, since we were kids, and we've always been into skiing, snowboarding. And before we ever even married or had kids, we always like, someday we're going to have a condo. Someday we're going to be able to have a house in the mountains. So lo and behold, when the market was absolutely prime, we bought a condo in the mountains in January of 2020. And for 6 months, it was stressful because we're like, well, what the heck did we do? Because the market crashed and you got the pandemic and all the stuff we were dealing with. But now it's been an incredible investment for us. The value's gone up incredibly. We're locked in, we're grandfathered in Summit County, where as you know, that market up there too, where nowadays you can't just go do that. Like it's like a lottery system, and they're really locking down the Airbnb. So that thing, I can barely use it myself. I'm actually going up there tonight, luckily, but I could barely even use it myself because it's being rented so much, and it's in such high demand. That's been a really awesome deal too. So now we're trying to, take the leverage from both of those to then look at other ways. My partner, he's done this a lot more, where he's bought and sold. He has a number of other residential properties that he, duplexes and different things like that he rents out as well. I kind of shifted a little bit and focused my energy on the academy and building my consulting company. So I put a lot of money and energy into that instead of kind of put the real estate stuff on hold. But again, what do they say about wealth, right? The people who are wealthy have multiple streams of income.
That's right.
And I believe that the whole premise here is as you make money, don't just level up your life and go blow it on dumb things. Like, let's find ways to reinvest, to create secondary incomes or tertiary incomes, like multiple streams of income. And that's how we build wealth. And at the end of the day, I believe that that's why you're listening. That's why we're watching. That's why we start roofing companies or any sort of company, is to build wealth, to create longevity, to create, a future for our families and ideally generations to come. And I firmly believe that real estate is a way to execute that.
Yeah, I love where you're going with this, Randy. And for your listeners specifically, I know in business, especially in construction, it's so easy to take your profits and reinvest it back into the company, and there's a good argument for that. I really also believe take some chips off the table. I mean, you built this company for a reason, and it's to support you. So why not take a little bit off the table and then start buying assets that will produce income? And that's what Kiyosaki talks about. Let's just collect these assets, create multiple streams, and maybe just a little bit at first. You know, just one house, just one little rental property will change your retirement drastically. Drastically. Yeah. And if you could, like what you're doing, let it go up in value, then pull some of that cash out, because you can pull cash out of the equity out of your rental properties tax-free, right? Debt's not taxed. So if you're refinancing it to get cash out, you don't pay any tax on it. And then you could use that money to go back and buy another one. And maybe you only buy one every 3 or 4 years, and you're very conservative, and it's just cash flowing little single family homes. And I'm telling you, that will change your life.
I love it. So we're going to land the plane here. It's been awesome. This is such a fun topic. And for those of you who are listening, who are watching the show, make sure to check out my man, Kevin Amolsch. Where do I find you, man?
Yeah, the best way is our website, pinefinancialgroup.com. It's pinefinancialgroup.com. If there's anybody out there that's interested in like more passive investing, you don't want the tenants and the toilets and the tantrums, then there's a free report you could download to keep you safe. Because here's the thing I've seen, Randy, people get into lending money to other people and they don't know what they're doing and they lose it all. So it could be very safe or it could be very risky. So we just wrote a report to keep you safe. It's thepinereport.com. You can get that for free.
Love it. And you have your own podcast as well. Like what?
Yeah,
let's talk about that real quick. And then
you're going to be on it. I can't wait to get into your coaching program, the academy. Our podcast is the Real Estate Educators Podcast, and the focus there is interviewing other educators. Like, how are you tapping into this world of real estate investors to help benefit your company? So think about mortgage brokers, maybe contractors, attorneys, whoever is targeting real estate investors. And a roofer is the exact right person to be listening to this, because they want the fix and flipper that's doing a roof every month, right? A new project every month. So that's what we call residual, right? If you have someone that's going to keep coming back to you. So those are the listeners that I think would benefit. So someone like you that's doing education to help funnel business to them is exactly who we talk to.
Love it. Well, I'm looking forward to joining that, and you can find that pretty much anywhere where podcasts are listed. And so here's the thing, man. Traditional fashion on our show, at the end we bring in experts in their fields and different experts, and I get to kind of throw you to the wolves here. But you've been in business a long time.
You did not warn me about this, right?
Nope, I didn't. I don't like to do this, but it's called the golden nugget.
Okay.
Talking to our audience, maybe somebody who owns a business, who's starting to see a little, financial success, that wants to get into real estate. What is your golden nugget? What's your best piece of advice that you can leave them with?
I got to say, this is for any industry. And if you're already in the business and already having success, then it's probably not an issue for you. But if you want to be successful in life and anything in real estate investing, if it's any kind of investing that's producing residual or passive cash flow, you got to actually do something. So what I hear people all the time, they read a book, they go to a seminar, they start to learn, and then they don't ever take action. They don't ever make an offer on a property. They don't ever talk to a mortgage broker about what it's going to take to get a loan. So to be successful in anything, it takes two things. You got to have grit. So it's got to be a lot of hard work, and you got to be willing to fail. You got to be willing to fall down and get back up. And so I say, the piece of advice I would share with your listeners, you got to just do it. Like, take one small step can change your life. So just take the step.
I love that. And the first step is listening to the show. The next step is subscribing to the show, because we have so many episodes. If you want to comment, we love the comments. We love the subscriptions. So do me a favor. And whether you're listening to this or you're on the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button. It helps us a lot. It helps us grow audiences. It helps us impact more lives. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And Kevin, my man, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your expertise on this topic. We'll have to do a little follow-up show down the road. I appreciate you. Thank you, my man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Randy.
All right, everybody. Take care, and God bless.